We got a whole table full of parts here for the Z. Let's see how many we can get installed today. What's going on, guys? Last video, we got that intake manifold all modified. It is in where it's going to go. Major step in the 280Z because that was a lot of work learning how to TIG weld. It is certainly not perfect, but it will do. I might have to clearance just a little more around the TPS sensor here, but we're good to move on. Now that that is in place, we can start doing some of the other stuff because we know exactly where that's going to go. So I've got a whole table full of parts here. All this stuff has to go on. We got a new brake master cylinder. We got a set of hella horns. What else we got here? That's a fuel filter. We're not doing that today. Brake proportioning valve. Some turbo stuff that we got from Drift Motion. Brake master cylinder. Fuel pressure regulator and fittings. We actually got some Cusco strut bars here. Got from Japan. And then we got this big box right here, which is the actual goal. You might be able to tell what that is, but I'm not going to show you right now. So we're going to start throwing stuff together because this is the fun part, right? We get to actually build stuff. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to be running a oil cooler. So we need an adapter. And we got this, if I can get it out of the bag here. Got this Sanders plate adapter from Chase Bays here. It's got ports in and out to go to the oil cooler. It's got ports to hook up our oil pressure gauge, which we need. This over here is the stock oil filter housing. Goes on there just like that on the side of the block. Oil filter goes here. That's our oil pressure sensor right there. Can't use this, and it's ugly. So we're going to throw that Chase Bays sandwich adapter on there real quick. Should not take too much. Actually, I'm going to go grab the oil cooler too. I did not bring that out. We'll just see what we can do as far as placement up front for that. All right, we got this nice box here from Fluidyne. We're not going to be installing the cooler today, but I do want to go throw it up just to take a look at it. This thing's pretty nice. I'm pretty sure, I think I got this thing from Summit. It's got their return address on it, not Summit's, Fluidyne's. I think I got this from Summit. Pretty sure. Get this thing out of here. It's not huge, so we should be able to find a place to mount this pretty easily. There we go. So that thing should work pretty good. It's nice and thick. Should be pretty easy to mount. And there's no in and out direction. Can mount it or plumb it either way. But we're going to have this somewhere here. And now we might have to throw the front together, because I do know that the hood rods, tension rods, run across right here. Actually, I can throw those in at any time. Those could actually go in right now if we need to. So, yeah, it's going to go somewhere up front here. I think that's going to be too low. Oh, we'll figure something out. Actually, that would be pretty easy if we put it up there, because we could just make a couple brackets that come off right here. That might be easy. I don't know. We could also put it in between, because there's tons of room in between the radiator and the intercooler. That might be the answer too, because that'll hide it. But I don't know. We'll figure something out. Not a big deal right now. All right. Let's see what we got to do with this thing. So our oil pressure sensor cannot fit on there. We'd have to put a fitting on, maybe a 90 or something, so we'll throw it on this side. I will go make sure that that's not going to hit anywhere on the block, though, real quick. Plenty of room. I think that's a pipe thread, so we got to throw some pipe tape on it. I prefer tape over liquid. It's less messy, and that's what I've always used. And it does not require a ton of torque because it's tiny. Can't forget to plug the other side, though. Don't need an oil leak when we go to start this thing. And this is a thermostat here, so it's going to not flow through the oil cooler until it gets up to temperature. So we're not cooling already cold oil, and your oil gets up to temperature, which is good. All right, so I took the intake manifold off. Obviously, I don't need to be working around that. And this is where it goes down here. This adapter should just thread right in there. Should just thread right in there. Oh. We're gonna go something like that, because it'll probably end up being something like that, so that we got plenty of room for oil cooler lines to come out. And that will tighten right down. Well, it should. Might need to shorten that piece. All right, so this piece was just a little bit too long, and I, for a second there, didn't know why, because I bought it specifically for this. This is specific to a 2JZ block. However, when I got looking, I bought this the right length for an Earl's oil cooler adapter, and I ended up returning that and getting that Chase Bays one. So I trimmed just a little bit off, just so we can tighten that down properly. So it should fit now. And I am going to throw just a dab of blue Loctite on there, so we don't have to worry about this backing out. It should be fine, but you never know. So we'll throw that on there real quick. Certainly ain't gonna hurt. I'm thinking right about there is where we're gonna want it. We can adjust it if we need to. Nice and tight. All right, might as well throw an oil filter on there too right now. I grabbed the cheapest filter I could find when I went to AutoZone, because we're gonna be changing the oil after a couple 100 miles anyway, because that block had just been rebuilt, machined, built, whatever, however you want to talk about it. So there's gonna be some metal shavings. All right, I figure we ought to throw the brake booster in, because that needs to go where it needs to go. This is my old crusty one. Had to replace this because, well, there you go. It's full of brake fluid, so it's no good. I got this one from AutoZone, actually. I didn't anticipate anybody made remanufactured ones of these, but apparently they do. So we just need to swap over our clevis here. I probably should have measured that, but I can just measure where it's dirty. So that is going to be, let's grab this. Let's see. Can't really go from the end. We'll go from there. It's about 3.5 inches. 3.5 inches, remember that. All right, 3.5 inches, right? Be right about there. So that, in theory, should get us right where we want to be. All right, I popped that on real quick. Not exactly exciting, it's just 4 bolts underneath the dash. So we can get rid of this thing. Don't need this thing anymore. I don't know if it's actually worth rebuilding. I'm not sure. I probably won't throw it away, but nope. I'm not really planning on it rolling all the way across the driveway, but let's go over here, and I think we will put on this. So this is a brake master kit that I got from Godzilla Raceworks. Uses a Willwood master. I wanted to upgrade the master because we're putting 370Z brakes on it, much bigger than the brakes that were on it. I can't remember the bore size, 15/16 maybe. It sounds right, but I can look it up if anybody wants to know and get you part numbers and stuff like that. But should just bolt right up to there. We're not going to worry about bleeding it right now because we don't have any lines in place. So I don't want brake fluid dripping all over the place. So we'll probably have to pull it back off to bench bleed it. But let's throw this thing on. All right, well, I got this thing back on the bench because I had a question. This rod to push on the master came with the kit, and I went to throw it on the booster over there. Does not fit. So I was like, well, what the heck? That doesn't make any sense. You know, the thread size is way, way too big. This is the one that came with the booster. It's tiny. So I went and grabbed this back, and this matches the one that came off of it. So I'm assuming this is just some common size that they give with this master. Well, Willwood does. Assuming. Hoping, anyway. So we're going to go with this one. It should be fine because if we look in here where this goes, I mean, it doesn't matter. Once it pushes on it, pushes on it. But it's the same. It looks the same in here. Well, in here. So it's not like this was really tight and it's going to be really loose in here any more than normal. So I'm going to measure how far that one sticks out. And we'll start with that. So from, where do we want to go from? We can stick this on here. So that is basically 1.8 inches. No, sorry, 0.8 inches. So we should be able to do the same thing with this one over on the other master. Or booster, not master. Stick this on here. I'm gonna scratch my paint. Right about there. All right, so I stepped back and thought about this for a second. We need to make sure that this is at the absolute right depth, because if it's too long, it's going to constantly be pushing on the piston in the master cylinder. If it's too short, you're going to have a massive gap. You have to push the brake pedal way down before it actually starts engaging. So I took a second and we measured the correct way. So there is a tool that they make for measuring these easily. But what I did basically is, this is the mounting flange here, where it's going to go on here. Well, actually, there's an adapter in between. And I measured down into where the piston goes down in here to the top up here, because I can't measure from there to there easily. So we measured from there basically to this surface here, and then we measured from here to here, which is a 1/2 inch, subtracted that from here to here, so that gives us the distance between the mounting flange and where the piston is right now in the bore. And then came over here. This is the adapter that has to go on. I don't know why they use this little spacer, but that goes on there. And then I measured from this flange here, this surface, to the end of the adjustment rod. And then we want like 10 to 40 thousandths of play in it, because you definitely do not want it perfectly tight. You need room for expansion and all that stuff. So we have that set right now. So now we don't have to worry about it, you know, potentially being wrong and having to take it back apart again. We should be good. All right, now we should be able to just pop our master on pretty easily. All right, she's on there. Now, one thing I would like to do in the future is build a support bracket, because these firewalls flex pretty good. So, you know, when you're really pushing down on the brake pedal, I would like to build some sort of bracket, but that's a future project. So this kit does offer remote mounted reservoirs. This is the reservoir here. You just have a hose that goes from here to the reservoir. You can mount these wherever you want, but I don't need that, at least right now. We may change over to it, but as of right now, I'm not planning on running them remotely mounted. So let me get my ratchet. So I'm just going to mount the reservoirs right on the master like you normally would. Yeah, probably that way. That way looks best, because you could obviously spin these around any direction you want, but I might as well send them backwards. So it's got two separate reservoirs, obviously, for front and rear. I mean, any modern car has a way to separate your front and rear brakes anyway, because if you have a failure on one side, brake line blow or something, you don't want to lose all of your brakes. So this just has two separate reservoirs, one for front and one for back. Simple as that. Next thing I want to install, I mean, we're doing brake stuff. Let's stick with the theme. Is this adjustable proportioning valve I got from Summit. This will allow us to dial in the front to rear bias. Because we are not using the stock brakes, I didn't want to use the stock one of these that's non-adjustable. And the stock one mounted right here, and I think we can do the same thing. I do. There is the holes right here, they're already threaded. There's a hole right here that's used for nothing right now. We can put a rib nut in there, I believe. I could mount it this way. Or here. If I mount it here, I'd need to make some sort of bracket to mount the front one. If I mount it here, I just need to drill a hole. But really, if I put it here, use that top hole, that hole right there that's already there, it's close. Let me bring you guys in here. So it is close to the steering shaft. I'm gonna get that right about there. Somewhere right there. It's hard to hold it in the right place. I think we're good. I think I'm gonna mock it up by throwing the bolt in right there and turning the steering shaft. Let's try that. So I think that'll work. Worst comes to worst, we can flip it around and go this way. Not a big deal, but you know, we might as well get it back there as far as we can. And this does have a sensor on it for, I believe it's a brake switch. I don't know. Yeah, it's a brake switch, so you can use that for your brake lights if needed. But I think that'll work, I believe. Let's try it, though. Worst comes to worst, we can move it. But I think that'll work. I got my threads cleaned out with a thread chaser. Very important to do that if you guys paint, because it gets absolutely full. The threads do a paint way more than you'd think. Just trying to shove a bolt in there is not going to clean it out. So yeah, it's going to be right about there somewhere. Oh, we got plenty of room. I might have to bend those tabs up on the sensor if we use... I probably am not even going to use that, to be honest. I mean, most likely. I mean, I got a brake switch in here anyway. Oh yeah, that will work. So let's pop that back out, and we're going to put a rib nut in there. So since I can't get my rib nut tool in there because the engine's in the way, we're going to use this. It should work. Basically, we're using a bolt, washer, and a nut to simulate or take the place of the rib nut tool. Basically, we're just going to use this here. The nut, we're going to put a wrench on it, and it should keep this from not spinning. And we're going to use the bolt to compress it, just kind of like the rib nut tool does. I think it will work. I mean, worst comes to worst, if this doesn't work, I can throw a regular nut on there, but I'd just rather have a rib nut there. It's just better. All right, let's try it out. Supposedly, other people have done this, so... Can't tell. Where's my flashlight? I don't think it's compressing. I think it's just spinning. No, it's definitely not just spinning. There we go, that worked pretty well. And we should be able to just mount this thing on you now. Good enough for now. All right, we're gonna install these strut bars, I guess. Just something fun to do. These are official Cusco, I'm pretty sure it's Cusco, strut bars. I got these from Japan. I got them from Right Hand Drive Japan when I bought the flares and the front air dam. I saw these on there, and they're, you know, it's a good brand. It's a known Japanese brand, aftermarket brand, and these are for sale here in the U.S. Some companies sell them, but they were cheaper since I was already paying for shipping and everything to just grab them from there. So I bought them. Let's throw them on. So the front one, we're just going to install loosely for now because I guarantee it's going to have to come back out. And this is adjustable. That's one nice thing about these is you can put tension in or out, whatever you need. I would assume out would be the standard. but it's adjustable, so you can, you know, one, get them exactly lined up, but two, put some tension on it if you need to. So we're just gonna throw these on real quick. I'm not tightening these down because it's gonna be in the way of getting the intake manifold in and out. I just want to throw it on for fun right now. Uh-oh. Right, so you can adjust this center portion here to give you more length or less length or whatever. All right, let's throw the rear on. This one's actually going to go on permanently. Apologize for the wind, but it is crazy right now. It's been really windy today. And this is also adjustable. Well, it looks like, for whatever reason, the bar hits back here. Let me get this over here. It hits right here. It's a little longer than, so it doesn't sit flat on here. So I'm going to just put some washers under it. All right, I'm not liking that. So I tried throwing a couple washers on. I mean, technically it would work. I don't like it though. So I think what we're going to do is, if you see, don't ignore that weld. I didn't do that. That's a factory weld. You can see it is just maybe 1/4 of an inch. Well, maybe a little more is going to come off because of those welds. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna trim this off, and then we'll just repaint this. I don't want blue anyway. I mean, so it'll be a good excuse to throw some paint on there. So we're not going to blue on the car at all. And I was definitely planning on doing something other than the blue up in the engine bay, because that's gonna clash a ton with the red. So be a good excuse. I mean, it is what it is, right? All right, well, I did a little bit of research, and it seems this is not something I was aware of before, but the strut towers are different from the 240Z to the 280Z. These must be made for a 240Z. Not a big deal. We're going to trim, what's that, like 3/8 of an inch off. It'll be fine. Yeah, they fit a ton better. I'm not going to paint them right now because I don't 100% know what color I'm going to go with. It'll probably just be black, but for now, since it's not final and we got to paint the fronts too, I'm just going to throw this in temporarily, and we will paint them at some point. So yeah, that strut tower will be good. The front too. It'll complement our Apex engineered suspension and our BC racing coilovers. So this thing should handle great. And also the stitch welding we did should be pretty stiff. Just about as stiff as you're going to get without putting a roll cage in the car. Next thing we're going to do is install the clutch master cylinder, since we're working right in the area. Keep going with the similar stuff, but we're not going to use the stock clutch master, and I'll show you what we're going to do. So this is the stock clutch master cylinder. It's a 5/8 bore, and the Fish Racing Tech kit that we got for the CDO09 to adapt to the 2JZ, it suggests that we use at least a 3/4 bore master cylinder, and I could have gone with a Willwood, but I found this online on an old hybridz.org forum post, and this is a master cylinder from a 1979 to 86 Jeep CJ7. This is the part number right here from Duralast. It's half the price of a Willwood, and it should work just fine. You can see it's very similar in size. The only little design difference is the port comes out on top here instead of on the side. But we got to remake the lines anyway, so that's not a big deal. The bolt spacing is the same right here. The other thing we need to do is change the rod. So basically all we're going to do is unclip the rod from this one to take it out, take the rod from this one and put it in here, and it should bolt right in. If we pull that boot off, there's a metal clip in there. If you guys can see that, And basically, we're just going to, as long as we get the right side. Apologies if you guys can't see very well. Yeah, see, there we go. It just pops right out. We'll work it out. It's basically just like a C-clip. And then that just pops right out. So now we can take this and put this on the Jeep master cylinder. Now this one, in theory, should work the same. I believe this one's an actual C-clip. Alright, now let's swap the other one in. We'll probably use the C-clip. Alright, and that is in there. Now, this thing should bolt right in. We will probably have to adjust the length of the rod, but we'll see. Perfect. And we got a couple new nuts here that we got from our hardware kit from Resurrected Classic, so we might as well throw in some of the old rusty ones. Now, one concern that there is this is where the washer reservoir goes, and on the 240Zs, the early cars, they are smaller. The 280Zs, later cars, they are bigger. And let me bring you guys over here. So you can see the washer reservoir is hitting right against the cap, which is not going to work. I wanted to replace this anyway because it's old and nasty. The pump is all rusted and probably doesn't work. There's a good chance of it, so I want to replace it anyway. So I'll probably get a smaller tank of the 240Z style when I go to replace that, just so it'll give me a little bit of extra space there. The only reason it's closer, so if we go back over here, is the reservoir sits back further on the stock one, so it sits way back here instead of out here on the end. It's really not a big deal. I mean, really, actually, let's say you could probably just run that, but probably not, because it's probably going to wear a hole into that eventually. So eventually your tank's going to leak. So I'll just do something else. We could also fab something up out of aluminum, maybe, now that we can TIG weld aluminum. Good practice, maybe. That could be a good future project. I mean, that's a really good, cheap option for somebody that needs to upgrade their master cylinder on these cars. Like I said, it's only like 46 bucks, I think. Half the cost of a Willwood. So, you know, if you don't need the Willwood, I would suggest picking that up. The part number, if you didn't see it before, this one's a Duralast 11958 or 800012. I'm not sure which one of those is actually the part number. But 79 to 86 Jeep CJ7, doesn't matter what engine, that'll get you the right master cylinder. So we got a decent amount done. I mean, some really important stuff that needs to be done. That intake manifold, once I get that painted, we can stick that back in permanently. Probably, you never know, it could have to come back out. But we got some stuff in place, other than these strut bars. Those didn't need to be put on. I just wanted to put them in for fun. But we got some stuff in place with that master cylinder for the clutch and the brake and the proportioning valve that needs to be in place. So we know kind of how to plan some future stuff. And once we get that intake manifold back in place, we'll know exactly how we're going to route everything as far as the intercooler pipes and the intake pipe. This stuff that we're doing now is really important because we need that stuff in place to do the fabrication in the future. This box right here especially, not really for fabrication, but we need to know where all the components are so we can lay this out. And you know what, let's just go over it real quick. So this is if you can read that tape right there, wiring specialties box. I ordered a wiring specialties harness for a 2JZ with all the options that I've got. We got a bunch of other stuff in there because I need some sensors and stuff like that. We're going to be getting to that really soon because I want to lay this out Oh, we've also got our ECU in there too, because this is we're going with the standalone. We're not going to be running the stock Toyota ECU. So there's also an ECU Master Black ECU in there. So we get to work on tuning ourselves when we get this ready to go, and which I'm really excited about. I really like doing that stuff. I've done a little bit of tuning with HP tuners, but this is going to be totally different. Running a standalone, being able to use the wideband O2 sensor to actually do live tuning, you know, because it's actually integrated into the ECU. Using a new software and everything, I'm really excited for that. So look forward to that. That will, I mean, obviously we're not going to be tuning soon, but we're going to be installing that harness soon and figuring out what we're going to do with the ECU and all that stuff. So that's one of the reasons we need to get all the major components in the engine bay so that we know where everything's going to be laid out and we can lay out that harness in the engine bay. Yeah, it's kind of a random video. Not really what I didn't really have a big plan when I came out here. I just knew we needed to get some of this stuff done. So upcoming projects, we've got that harness needs to be put in, which we need the intake manifold back in place. Not a big deal. I'm going to get some paint on that. And I am actually, a couple people mentioned it'd be a good idea to pressure test it. I bought a smoke leak detector. That should be in here in a couple days. It pressurizes the system and also introduces smoke so you can see if there's any leaks. So, and it's actually pretty cheap for one. So I bought one of those. We'll pressurize that and smoke test the intake manifold just to see before we go and paint it and put it back in, make sure we don't have any leaks in those very amateur TIG welds that I did last video. So anyways, with that, going back to what we're saying, so we need to put the harness in right. We need all the components in place. Other than that, upcoming, we obviously going to build some intercooler piping, which that's more aluminum welding. I've already got the couplers and stuff ordered. I need to buy some piping. We need to build the exhaust, and I do need to modify that manifold. So we'll get into it more, but the flange down there, this should be really easy. The flange down there is not the correct flange for my wastegate. So we need to cut that flange off, weld on a V-band. Should be easy. I haven't done stainless yet, but it should be easier than doing aluminum, and it's not a massive amount of fabrication and modification like we did on the intake manifold. So once that's in place, that can be bolted in place permanently. We're going to be building the exhaust. Most likely, I will only be building a downpipe for now, and we'll finish the exhaust at a later date, just so we can work on getting the car running. Which, I mean, we already determined we don't need to turn the turbo, so we don't need to mess with this flange. So we're going to have to do some pie cuts to, which I'm excited to do the pie cuts because that's going to really give me some practice TIG welding. But we're going to have to pie cut this down here and right down there, right by where our wastegate is. We'll have a short wastegate dump down there somewhere, which, speaking of that, I need to buy some tubing for a wastegate dump, which I had forgotten about. Yeah, so all of that stuff is coming up. We got some other miscellaneous stuff. I got to get the sway bars installed. We have those. Like I mentioned, we need to figure out a mount for the oil cooler. We can get some lines. Actually, once I figure out where I want it, we can buy some lines and fittings so we can plumb the oil cooler up. Gas tank, our fuel system. We need to modify the gas tank, which I am pretty excited about what solution I came up with for that, because I didn't want to use a external pump. So we're converting to a traditional modern style internal pump. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff coming up. We're just getting to the good stuff. So hang with me, guys. We got a lot of good content coming with the 280Z. Really would like to hear what you guys think as far as opinions on how this is going, and give me any tips if you guys, especially you guys that have more experience with these cars. Don't forget, I have literally never driven a Datsun, never ridden in one. The only thing that I have done with this car is trailer it from where I bought it half an hour away and pushed it into the garage. That's the only experience I have with this car, except for what you've seen on the channel. So that'll about do it for this one. Next couple videos should really be good ones. So look forward to those videos, and I'll see you next time.